Welcome to Put Down the Mascara. I'm your host, Kate Holmes. This is a podcast where we uncover our authentic selves and cut through the bullshit of life and really learn how to live authentically and unapologetically. Thanks for joining us. Hi, I'm Kate. Welcome to the podcast, Put Down the Mascara. This is where we begin to uncover our authentic selves. I'm here with Susana today, who has many hats that she's wearing: full-time realtor, mom, wife, community member, active in a fitness capacity. Like, you're everywhere, and I love that. And really, as we're talking about being our authentic self, how do we do that in a world that is so wrapped up in social media? Instagram moments, posing for photos, making reels. How do you be authentic in a fake world?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
It's I feel overwhelmed even just thinking. Like I can't even think about it too much because it really does. It is overwhelming, and if it's overwhelming for us at our stage of life, I can't even imagine how overwhelming it is. And I'm going to speak about young girls, and I'm sure that for boys it's no better.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately for girls, social media does target the women more. And I think, at the end of the day, when we say social media, we're talking about marketing and media in general, right?
Yeah.
Because social media wasn't always around, right?
No, I'm thankful that we didn't grow up in that.
I couldn't even imagine.
Like some of these young women that know no different.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think that we've always been influenced.
Mm-hmm.
We say, oh, you're an influencer. There have always been influencers. I just don't think that we saw it in the same way that we see it now, because it is heightened. There's no doubt about it. But in the 50s, we had commercials telling women how to be great homemakers.
Right.
And great moms.
Yeah.
And you had to have this blender, and you had to wear this apron.
And what the best mascara would have been.
Of course.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
And best cigarette to smoke. And what made you look, the most classy? What cigarette made you look the most classy? It was the slimmer, longer ones. Like, maybe not so much in the 50s, but I know that in the 80s that was the message we were getting.
So I guess what we're really getting to is that it's evolved. So it's always been there. There's always been a pressure on people to look a particular way, act a particular way. So social media, we can even just call it marketing in general.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely heightened and hyper. It's hyper these days, obviously, because it's at our fingertips now 24/7, where before we'd actually have to turn on the TV to see it. But it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there in ways that I personally think can be very damaging.
Yeah.
To women of our, I say our age, but you are so much younger than I am. But, grown women, as well as young teenage girls, or even younger than that, you know. I think that social media is something that we all need to be really careful about with young girls. Right now, there's, everything from being told how you should look, how thin or how not thin you should be, how fit is acceptable.
Right.
Social media has been telling us, what is acceptable and what is not for a long, long time now. And there are some really impressionable minds out there who are soaking this all in.
Yeah.
I think that there are ways that we, and I can't speak for young girls, I don't have any of them at home anymore. My girls are pretty level-headed these days, being in their 20s, and they can kind of see that it's a highlight reel. And if I could just kind of interject about, highlight reels, like we look at social media, okay, so like just, looks and all of that sort of thing aside, and, cosmetic procedures, all of the stuff that we're being inundated with. But if I could just put that aside for a second, when we look at other people's lives, even on social media, there's a pressure to, be more, do more with our kids, be a better mom, have a cleaner house, go on better, more expensive vacations, to the European vacations, because that's what everybody else is doing.
Right.
It is important to remember that it's a highlight reel, just like our parents' photo albums were highlight reels. People weren't putting, the picture, well, I think I might have a picture of my son crying when he was little, but you generally didn't put your crappy times in your photo
it's
album.
a highlight reel of the good times.
It was just a highlight reel back then too, and it still is. And we need to really keep that in mind, I think, for me, is, I need to keep in check that, these are highlight reels. These are not their real life all of the time. And I'm sure that my social media feed to some people looks like I lead this, amazing fun life. It's not like that every day. That's stuff I put on there.
That's right.
I'm
That's
not
the stuff
tell
you want to share with people.
I'm not going to tell you about the time that I threw whatever it is across the room because I was so mad at whomever,
Right.
It's just what it is. So really important, I think, for me, one of the things that I've done and continue to do, it's going to be an evolving process, is just unfollow, mute, or just be super, super aware of what it is that you're following and spending time seeing on your feed. Right? And I think for every account lately that I do follow, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, for every account that I do follow, I'm slowly starting to go through it and be like, why do I follow this account? Why do I follow this person, this business, whatever it is? And for the most part, for me, it's networking, getting to know what's in my community so that I'm able to support. So that's a huge one for me.
Yeah.
But if there are accounts that are making me feel smaller, less adequate,
don't align with your morals and
values. That don't align with my
values.
morals and values, it is totally okay to just not follow.
That's right.
Not follow. But then I think you also have to ask yourself if you're being insecure about the things that you're following. For example, if there's some hot chick on a yacht, for example, and that makes you insecure for whatever reason, you could totally unfollow. But I think it's also really important to ask yourself why you're feeling insecure about it.
Right. And that's another conversation about building self-esteem and
right.
being confident to have things on your social media and follow things, because again, that's a highlight reel for them too.
Right.
It could be photoshopped.
It probably is.
Yeah. And again,
not that she can't be hot. She could totally be hot and be on a yacht and not be photoshopped.
Totally.
She probably is.
and we have to remember there are those tools.
Right.
There's filters. And this also, we can break down the whole filter conversation and posing it I like to hold the camera in a certain way. It gives me a good angle. That's the angle I like.
Thinner and younger and
yeah.
My girls are always telling me that I don't know how to take photo. My youngest is always telling me I don't know how to hold the camera for myself.
Yeah.
But so interesting that we're talking about this, because just last week I was getting my nails done.
Yeah.
And there was a really nice lady beside me who is a doctor in this field, in this cosmetic surgery field. And we were talking about how this, that whole industry really evolved and blew up when the Kardashians came on the scene.
Right.
And that's when their industry sort of blew up. And it's blown up again. It's seen another huge height when TikTok started and Snapchat started bringing out these filters. These filters that make you look like you've had cosmetic enhancements done.
And then people could see what they would look like.
So apparently, and we're talking about women in their early 20s who are walking into her clinic with their phones, with their faces with these filters on, and they're wanting this done.
Right.
And again, to each their own.
Yes.
To each their own. But why?
And you and I,
the question is why? Do we need this?
Why? And you and I were having a discussion earlier about this is not about bashing any industry.
Absolutely not.
And for those of us that choose to make certain decisions, if you think that having something done makes you feel more confident, then I believe in that.
Me too.
But really, again, it's about asking yourself why. And is there some internal work you could be doing before you choose to have your lips blown up or some elective surgery?
Right. So by falling into that, getting sucked into, no pun intended, getting sucked into these highlight reels or these marketing messages that were being sent on social media that tell us what we're supposed to look. The 50 is a new 40 or 40 is a new 50 or whatever it is, or 30 is a new 40. Instead of getting sucked into those messages, I think that if we all really ask ourselves, what is it that we're trying to achieve if we do get sucked into it, what is it that we're trying to achieve by having these procedures done, number one? is there a gap that needs to be filled there with maybe some self-esteem? I think there's a lot of comparison going on with women, regardless of whether it's cosmetic procedures, just on social media in itself. I think that we're constantly comparing ourselves to whatever's going on social media.
Right.
But I think that if we can find our identity that has nothing to do with the way that we look or the way that our house looks, I think that if we find a deeper purpose and we're focusing on that, I think that the light won't shine quite as bright on those things that are making us insecure when we're on social media. And maybe I hope that makes sense.
It does. And maybe asking ourselves what we like about ourselves.
Right.
That's maybe not something that's physical.
Beyond physical.
Beyond physical. So I like my personality, that my laugh is ridiculous.
I like your personality.
Right? Like, so how do I embrace that? And that wasn't easy to do when I was younger because it was bold, it was big, and I've kind of come into that. And what is it about you that you like, that you really want to embrace that? But I also think it's okay to know that maybe there's something physical you like about yourself, too.
Absolutely.
And embrace that, work with that, be confident with that, because if that's going to make you go out into the world with high self-esteem, because there's something you like about yourself that's physical, all the more power to you.
Right.
But we as women often don't think like that.
Most often
don't live with confidence.
Right.
And so I think really when we start talking about social media, it's really a confidence conversation.
I really do think it is, because I think that you could, because let's say we took away social media, so you're no longer seeing stuff on your phone or on your tablet or whatever it is that you're seeing, but you're still going out into the real world.
Right.
And there's still comparisons out there too, in your social circle, like your friend circle, your family circle. There's still comparisons there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it does come down to a confidence issue. And I think that when we're dealing with confidence, I think it's all the more important that we have a bigger purpose, like a higher purpose than just the way that we look, or whether it's, the way that our houses look, or the way that the clothes that we're wearing. I think that we need to just have a higher purpose, a deeper purpose, so that all of a sudden all of that stuff is just fluff.
Yeah. Just living your authentic life.
Yeah.
What else about social media really, I find it so interesting that we start talking about cosmetics and a doctor is telling you this, but how do we get that message across to younger people that it is okay to embrace your laugh lines and because that's part of you. It's what makes you you. But I also don't want to pass judgment because so many people are partaking in Botox and hey,
nothing wrong with that at all.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing if that's going to give you, but how do we also as a society realize that it's okay for somebody not to?
Right. And I feel like that's where it might be going, is I feel like, it's become more the norm to have Botox or fillers or cosmetic procedures done. It's becoming more and more the norm. So the how do we still find whatever's left over still acceptable, and how do we still embrace that?
Right.
Is it still okay to have what they call jowls or laugh lines or crow's feet, or I don't even know what the terms are. I'm probably using all the wrong terms. But is it still okay to have those and embrace those?
Right.
Are they still acceptable?
Right. It's okay to
whether
have
you're
gray
20
hair.
or 50 or 60 or gray hair.
Right. It's so many people during COVID were growing that out.
Yeah.
We could even take that back to Lisa LaFlemme.
Absolutely.
And what happened there, so much
powerful though.
Very powerful stuff going on. And think about if we took away social media, you were talking about that before, how much more time we would have.
Yeah.
Right? It is a bit of a, you get ingrained in it, you get soaked up, things about people that you might not be seeing on the daily. So I think that's a really good tip for people to talk about why you're following somebody and what value that is adding.
And I think that we do have to say too that on the flip side, we're talking about all the negativity with social media. There's a lot of positivity there too. I mean, social, and again, that goes back to, cleaning up your feed or tweaking your feed so that there's value there for you, right?
Yes,
your feed needs to be valuable to you. If all it's doing is bringing you grief and making you feel, crappy about yourself, then there's no value there. But if you've got, like, for example, with my feed, I've got a lot of, obviously a lot of real estate educational stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that 80% of my feed has to do with real estate, obviously. But a lot of my feed has to do with, like, I love to cook and I love to keep a clean home and an organized home. It brings me joy.
Yeah.
It's not because I feel like I'm competing with anyone. It really does bring me joy.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my feed is that. And I think that if you can, cultivate your feed so that you are feeling better about yourself when you're there scrolling, I think that's a huge key, is just unfollow or mute the stuff that doesn't bring you value.
Yep.
And if it still does come across and it still bothers you as much as, or more than it should, I think that it's time to maybe ask yourself why, and maybe there's some work that needs to be done there, and maybe get some further support.
Absolutely, and there's lots of support out there, and we want people reaching out for whatever support
Absolutely.
that they need to experts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, if we want to leave, obviously, on a positive note, like you said, there's so many great things out there on social media as well. So you got to find what's true to you, and follow that and read it and participate in that as well, and get rid of the fluff. I like that. Get rid of the fluff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful, very enlightening conversation, and I look forward to doing this again. And that's today's episode of Put Down the Mascara. Before we sign off, I want to drop a friendly reminder your way. While we do our best to bring you helpful insights, stories, and perspectives on this podcast, I want to make it clear that we're not here to replace counselors, advisors, and experts. Remember, education and empowerment are journeys we embark on together, and seeking guidance from experts along the way is great for your personal growth. Thanks again for tuning in to Put Down the Mascara. We can't wait to have you back next time. Your feedback, stories, and suggestions keep us going and fuel our passion for empowering women